Okay, let me tell y'all about the moment I realized I had been completely wrong about how power works in Ghana. So boom, I'm in Poker Musaba for my installment ceremony. This is the day they were installing me as Nkosuo Hemaa, development queen mother of the village. Now mind you, Poker has about 10,000 people. I have been supporting different initiatives in Ghana, helping with food, school fees, medical bills, showing up for different communities, but this ceremony was different. This was official. The whole village was there. Drums going, kente everywhere, big umbrellas, chiefs, elders, queen mothers. The energy in the air felt heavy in the best way, like history was literally watching. And then the chief started arriving, and baby, when I tell you the whole place shifted, people stood up immediately, heads slightly bowed, pure respect. Now, in my American mind, I used to think chief meant something ceremonial, like a respected elder that people honor out of tradition. But standing there in that moment, I realized this was real authority, not symbolic, not decorative, real power. The chief sat, the elder sat, the queen mother sat. Then I noticed something that made me like pause. A government official, men in suits. And when they greeted the chiefs, they were the ones showing respect. Well, they showed respect first. That's when it hit me that Ghana runs on two systems of power at the same time. You have the government system, president, parliament, ministers, elections, but right beside that is the traditional system of chieftaincy. And this system existed centuries before colonization ever touched the continent. You have paramount chiefs, the Omahini, leaders of entire traditional areas. Under them, you have divisional chiefs, sub-chiefs, village chiefs. These leaders settle disputes, they oversee land, they guide their communities, protect traditions. Then there are specialized leadership roles. One of them is Nkosuo Hemaa. That is the development chief, the one responsible for bringing growth and opportunity to the people, and they're usually diaspora. And then there's Nkosuo Hemaa, the development queen mother, and that is the title they gave me that day. Now, before anyone thinks queen mother means some ceremonial role where you just wear beads and smile for pictures, let me stop you right there. Queen mothers hold authority. In a Khan tradition, the queen mother can nominate a chief, and if a chief stops serving the people properly, the queen mother can destool him. That means remove them from power. So let this sink in. For centuries, women in this system have had the power to approve leadership and remove it. Meanwhile, people act like women in leadership is some modern Western invention. So standing there during my installment, I understood the responsibility that comes with this title. It's not about status. This was about service. My role as Nkosuo Hemaa of Pogram is development, helping bring opportunities to the village, building connections between the diaspora and the community, supporting the people. Because chieftaincy in Ghana is not just political, it's cultural, it's spiritual, it's identity. This is why this system survived colonization. The British tried to weaken it. They tried to replace it with their own systems. But the people never stopped recognizing their chiefs because traditional authority runs deeper than any government election. So today in Ghana, you can have government approval for something, but if the chief does not agree because it involves stool land, that project is not happening. If people have disputes, they often go to the chief's palace before they go to court. Presidents meet with chiefs. Politicians seek their blessing. The traditional system and the modern government operate side by side, and watching it up close during my own installment ceremony made me realize something powerful. Africa has always had sophisticated systems of leadership. Chiefs, queen mothers, councils of elders, checks and balances, community representation, all of it operating for centuries. We were just not taught about it. So when I stood there in Pogram, being a student in Nkosuo Hemaa, I understood something clearly. This crown is not decoration. It is responsibility. It is work. It is a promise to serve the people who trusted me with their future. And if you want to help me, help them, send me a DM. Let's connect.
Bibi ni hono mo a lady position ya dia man se Nkosuo Hemaa nani enye ho nani agi ho ye perfectly say before ansana ide sa Nkosuo Hemaa we say kwa ebe mano no na Ghana ya mo fa dodo na no eye lady ye ho nei Oboa wom akwan ahodo bebre so a penimfo yi ho a yɛde saa Nkosuo Hemaa yɛde ahyɛ ne nsa hwɛ enigye ahodo a etwagu ɛwɔ hɔ lady ɛka nsɛm ahodo ba ko mienu bi ɛfa ya rich culture history ahodo a yɛwɔ ɛwɔ Ghana ha sei no sɛ yɛn penimfo no adenti na ɔmo ɛyɛ free schools ahodo dodo na emu a yɛnkyerɛ yɛn mofra no sɛ deɛ Ghana history ni ade esitie na yɛntie no yɛnhwɛ sɛ deɛ osi ɛkasa ɛde fa ho fa ɛne ne other videos ahodo a aka enso.
Okay, gather around because I need to tell y'all something that's been sitting on my chest and I cannot hold it anymore. We need to talk about what they are not teaching us. Let's start in Ghana, the motherland, the country that we have been celebrating all month. Beautiful Ghana, oh, Gold Coast Ghana, oh, Independence Ghana. They don't teach Black history in Ghanaian schools. Boo. Middle, babe, in Ghana, on the continent, in the country where the door of no return literally exists, the children are not being taught what happened there. They are being taught about the British. They are being taught about America. But the story of what happened on their own soil to their own people, sis, that curriculum is missing. And I need y'all to understand how wild that is because the door of no return is not in a museum in London. It is not in a textbook in Washington, D.C. It is in Cape Coast. It is in Ghana. You can drive there. Some people can walk there. And Ghana children are not taking field trips to it. They are not standing in those dungeons, the same dungeons where their ancestors were chained, starved, and loaded onto ships and being told the truth about what happened. That is not an accident. That is a system. Because here is the part that really got me when I started digging into it. And I need y'all to sit with me on this. It was not only the Europeans who came and took people. Some of the locals played a role. Some African chiefs and traders participated in capturing and selling people to European slave traders. That is documented. Historical fact. It is complicated. It is painful. It does not in any way reduce the monstrosity of what the Europeans did now. Because they built the system. They created the demand. They ran the ships. They built the plantations. The architects of slave trade were European. But the full story includes the local participation in that story. That painful, complicated, we need to reckon with this story is also not being taught in Ghanaian schools. They are protecting a narrative on both sides of the ocean. Now let's cross the water because America is doing the same thing from a completely different angle. You know what they teach in American schools about enslaved Africans. They teach that the Europeans went to Africa and grabbed a bunch of uneducated, uncivilized people off the land and brought them over to work. That's the narrative. Uneducated, uncivilized, lucky to have been brought somewhere with opportunity. That's a lie. It's a lie constructed with intention because here's what they are not teaching. They did not steal uneducated people. They stole carpenters. They stole blacksmiths. They stole weavers and potters and architects and farmers who understood soil science before the term even existed. They stole herbalists who knew the medicinal properties of hundreds of plants. They stole astronomers who could read the stars without a telescope. They stole musicians, griots, historians, people whose entire job was to hold the memory of their civilization in their bodies. They did not steal uneducated people off a dirt road. No. They stole the skilled labor force of entire civilizations. They took the master builder and put him on a plantation and said he was nothing, and then used his hands to build a country and called it their own. Genius. And that is not in the textbook. And then this is the part that keeps me up at night, y'all. They didn't just steal workers. They human trafficked entire royal bloodlines. Think about that for a second. The people who were captured were not always the most vulnerable people in the village. Sometimes they were the most significant. Chiefs' children, royal family members, healers, spiritual leaders, people whose loss would destabilize the whole community. People who carried the most knowledge, the most lineage, the most power. They took the kings and queens and put chains on them and told their descendants they were born to serve. And somewhere in America right now, there's a black person walking around not knowing that their great-great-great-great-grandmother was royalty. Not knowing that the reason they have unexplainable gifts, unexplainable leadership, unexplainable wisdom is because they are carrying something in their blood that was never meant to be forgotten. My mama tell me all the time, girl, where you come from? So here's where I land. And this is the question that I cannot shake, right? If Ghana is not teaching it and America is not teaching the truth of it, how do we hold on to our history? Somebody tell me. I'll tell you. We teach it. We teach it on Facebook, on TikTok, in our living rooms, at dinner tables, at our family reunions, in the books we buy our children, in the names we give our businesses, in the way we wear our fabric and pour our libations and say our ancestors' names out loud. We become the griots. Because in West African tradition, the griot was the keeper of history. The one who held the memory of the community when everything else was trying to erase it. The griot was the most important person in the village because without the griot, the village forgot who it was. That is us now. Every single one of us is choosing to learn, to teach, to share, to remember. We are the griots of the diaspora. They built two systems on two different continents to make sure we did not know who we were. And every time you share a post like this one, every time you tell your children the truth, every time you say the name of an ancestor you never met but carry in your body, you are dismantling what they built. One truth at a time. Share this because somebody in your circle needs to hear it today. And if this moved you, tell me in the comments because we are just getting started. Like, what else do y'all want me to talk about? What else do y'all want to learn? Y'all let me know. Y'all know this is the reason why I created the Culture Club. So I can spread information like this. So let me know in the comments. Marasipa. All right, let me put y'all on something about Ghanaian culture that might flip how you look at family real quick. So in Ghana, one of the biggest groups of people are called Akan. And the way they run family over there is real different from what a lot of us grew up hearing in the West. The Akan is matrilineal. In plain talk, everything runs through the mama side. Your clan, your identity, your inheritance, your place in society, all of that comes through your mother's bloodline, not your daddy's. Now peep this. If a king dies in Akan culture, his son doesn't just step up and take the throne. Nope. The next king is usually his sister's son. Why? Because the royal blood is proven through the women. Sit with that for a second. That right there tells you a lot about how Akan people saw women. Women weren't some side character in the story. They weren't property. They weren't second place. Women were the source. The ones that carry the bloodline. The ones the whole structure was built on. And the Akan, even have a word for your maternal family. It's called Abusia. That's your people. Your real root. It tells everybody exactly where you come from and who you belong to. Now compare that to the story colonialism tried to tell you about Africa. They tried to make it seem like African people had no structure, no order, no real civilization. That was a whole big, bold lie. The Akan had organized societies, deep traditions, and systems that centered women long before any colonizers showed up. That was a colonizer.
So when we talk about heritage, that's part of it too. That's wisdom, that's structure, that respect for the women. That's respect for the women who carry the line. That's your legacy. So yeah, walk like you know where you come from.
First time trying banku and okra.
No, just pat it. Pat it with your hand. Don't think about it too much. Just, yep. Well, that's perfect.
No, no, only the food first. Because the fish they have some. So yeah, the food first. You got to